What do mimosas, Hamburger Helper, Indian food, and Bernie Sanders have in common? Well, naturally, another episode of Insecure. Hey everyone, this is D, Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with another episode of Insecure, Season 4, Episode 9, Lowkey Trying. This episode was directed by Kerry Washington. My first introduction to Kerry Washington was her portrayal of Della B, Ray Charles' wife in the biopic Ray, starring Jamie Foxx. But she has been in numerous films before that, after that, and I think a lot of you would know her as Olivia Pope in Scandal. This is her third stint at directing. She's previously directed for the series Smilf and, of course, for Scandal. So the theme of this episode, I thought, had a lot to do with effort. What happens when you are putting forth effort, when you are trying to salvage relationships, salvage friendships, and what also happens when effort isn't reciprocated, when intention isn't reciprocated, and then navigating what it looks like when you have a completely imbalanced situation and there is one person trying, and one person who is absolutely not trying at all. So we actually opened up with Issa and Lawrence, and I will be honest, for a second I thought this was a dream sequence. I was kind of like, oh, like we're getting a look at what it would be like if they decided to be together, because the way that last episode ended, I could have seen it going either way. They could be thinking about jumping into a relationship again, or they could just kind of be done. But no, it turns out that no, they are actually reconnecting. They are rediscovering themselves in terms of a relationship. And I've noticed that once again, the couch is kind of the focal point and the metaphor for their relationship. The first time, back in season 1, we saw a similar montage where it was the beginning of their relationship and they had just bought the couch, and the couch, like their relationship, is something brand new and exciting, and we see just all the good times they have together. But slowly we see the disintegration of their relationship. And by the end, they are completely on opposite sides of the couch. Their relationship, like the couch, is in disrepair and it's basically falling apart. So I thought it was interesting then in this sequence, the couch, which is still pretty brand new, it's them rediscovering each other, rediscovering their passion, their chemistry. And so in this case, it's the rebuilding of their relationship and them coming back together after so long and just getting to know each other all over again. So I love the fact that they used the couch once again as the focal point of that, and it kind of was a full circle moment too. So fast forward and we see them just hanging out, chilling on the couch. Issa gets a text from Nathan. So Issa just kind of takes it upon herself to tell Lawrence about Nathan, and he's just kind of like, oh, well, I got you turned out like that? She's like, chill out. But no, she really does just want to be honest and straightforward because she doesn't want to mess what they have going on up. And speaking of which, what is this? And I was like, oh no. See, you kind of have to know that before you get into the situation, because now there's already some investment. So I'm kind of like, oh, okay. But he basically says, what do you want it to be? And she's not sure either. I'm like, no one. I'm like, no one really knows what this is. I think it's because they're both cognizant of where they've been and they don't want to make the same mistakes again. I think they're both hesitant to say, we are in a relationship, even though I feel like that's where they're headed. So Issa isn't really sure, but she just wants to make sure there are no loose ends dangling anywhere. And speaking of loose ends, how's Condola? He basically says that he and Condola are done, so that's out the way. And Lawrence still has to hear back about the interview in San Francisco, but for now, everything is smooth sailing. So we jump over to Molly, and at last, thank God Almighty, Molly has gone to therapy at last. We see her sitting down with Dr. Rhonda, and may I say that Dr. Rhonda has a really nice setup, her office. I was looking at the aesthetics and the whole setup in there. I thought that was really, really cool. But anyway, Molly is just discussing how tough it is being in a relationship with Andrew and the fact that it's the longest relationship she's ever been in. And I think part of her is scared about messing it up also. She also is just feeling really tense, and Dr. Rhonda suspects that it has something to do with Issa. And Molly, of course, still feels like Issa just went behind her back with Andrew and that she was out of line. And Dr. Rhonda is just kind of like, well, is there anything that you could have done differently? And Molly kind of pauses and thinks. She's like, no, she has to apologize. I was like, okay, Molly. Dr. Rhonda says, this is basically a pattern for you. Someone makes you mad, you put your walls up, and then you just shut down. And Molly's like, well, Issa was out of line. She's like, well, you could say that about Torian. You could say that about Dro. You could say that about your father. But ultimately, do you want to be right or do you want to be in a relationship? And so when she says that, Molly's like, All right, Dr. Rhonda, read me then. You know, she's getting somewhere with this. And Dr. Rhonda also asks, "Are you willing to do the work of repairing this relationship?" I think I know the answer to that, but we'll see. We see Issa over at her apartment, and she clearly is wanting to discuss this whole Lauren situation with somebody. She tries calling Kelly, but then she gets this whole bilingual voicemail from her. She calls Amal, who is busy tearing up some jerk chicken at a Jamaican restaurant. She tells him that she and Lawrence are back together. He's like, "Oh, well, does he know?" But basically, she really is trying to figure out whether it's wise to continue being friends with Nathan while she's trying to work things out with Lawrence. And Amal is not really any help. He is too busy tearing up his food. He's really just repeating everything she's saying. It could be messy. Yeah, it might be messy. Oh, it's probably fine. Yeah, it's probably fine. I'm probably overthinking it. Yeah, you're probably overthinking it. It's like, well, this has been absolutely unhelpful. He's like, you get what you pay for. Bye. Then she takes it upon herself to call Molly, of all people. And I was kind of surprised, as I figured it was going to be a lot more time and space before they attempted to reconnect. But Issa kind of bites the bullet and calls Molly. She wants to meet up, she wants to talk and really make things work. And Molly is listening to Issa's call in the car, and she is actually looking like, okay, like she's really open to this, right? Issa has gotten back with Lawrence. There are things going on with work, and there's really no one else she wants to discuss those things with other than Molly. Well, Molly ain't having that. She starts going off. Well, typical Issa. Of course you called to talk about yourself. You still the same messy, using, selfish. Whoa. Like my chest started hurting. I was like, good gracious. But this is another one of the Issa daydream moments, and she is kind of like, oh. She's kind of hesitating now. And I find that this is something I did a lot in the past, and it's something I still work on not doing. Like whenever I want to hang out with somebody or whenever I want to have a discussion, good or bad. And I've learned that it's always the thought of what could happen that keeps me from reaching out to people sometimes. Oh, they might be busy, or maybe they don't want to be bothered, blah, 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 blah. But I'll never know until I actually put forth the effort. And so I thought it was good that she still, with that thought in her mind, still pushed forward and called her. Because if it were me, I might have been like, ugh. But by not pushing forward and doing it, that's kind of a missed opportunity. So I thought it was good that she went ahead and called her in spite of her reservations and was really intentional about them sitting down and having that time. So fast forward, we see Issa at a diner, and she is waiting on someone, presumably Molly. She's telling the waitress how nervous she is. She's not sure how things are going to work out. And the waitress is like, you need some alcohol? Issa's like, yes. She orders some light-skinned mimosas, which is basically champagne with like a drop of orange juice in it. And then Molly walks in with her denim outfit. And Issa's like, hey, that was really loud. All right. They walk up to each other. Issa gives her this real awkward hug. They sit down. It's very kind of, tense, kind of weird. There's a little bit of small talk. How's the vacation? We had fun. How's your nephew? Well, girl, we got a whole stranger in the house with us. Because my brother's ex up and left this baby, we told him wasn't his with us. So, yeah. And every time there's a pause, it's kind of like, are they? No, well, how's work? And they jump into this other conversation. So it's pleasant enough, but we clearly are avoiding the elephant in the room. So I was just like, ugh. And it was frustrating to watch because I've done this before. I was scared to talk about the actual issue I was having with a friend because I figured it was just going to blow up into a thing. I don't know. I had a different perspective on conflict back then. But, everything was nice. Everything was cool. It felt like old times. But then those issues resurfaced again later. And it just fell apart in the end. So watching this, I was just like, oh, why? Yes, I understand that Issa could have said something, but I feel like if she's made the effort to reach out to you and go through this whole process, you can at least say, so, it's like everything can't be left up to her. So I was just like, ugh. I mean, it really just kind of gave me a migraine because I'm like, are we really going to sit here and act like we were not literally about to go upside each other's heads not that long ago? Okay. So then we see Andrew sitting down, talking to his brother Victor. As soon as Molly walks in, he cuts that conversation short very quickly. And he asks how the brunch went. Molly says that it was okay, but it was very superficial. And Andrew's like, okay, so did you bring up the whole block party situation? She says, well, she didn't seem to want to bring it up, so I didn't bring it up. But for Andrew, it's like, well, you could have said something. I mean, I understand how you feel, but I mean, couldn't you have met her halfway? Oh, Molly's just like, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that's how I know there's a problem. Just the suggestion that you make effort is a problem to you. Oh, see, you're killing me, Molly. You're killing me. Andrew also mentions that Victor is in town and he bought them all tickets to go see the Clippers together. Well, Molly is just kind of like, oh, well, you guys should go. Make it a guys' night. But obviously, the whole thing is that she still doesn't want to be around Victor, which I guess is understandable. But for how long? And it's funny that Dr. Rhonda just told her how to handle things, but already it's not clicking. We also see Issa and Sequoia. They are planning out this wellness event, and it looks like Issa is really just getting the ball rolling as far as event planning and curating and all those things. It's really coming together, so that was nice to see. She tells Sequoia that she'll catch her later, but not before getting one of the waffles that are in her purse being warmed by hand warmers. I was like, oh, black folks, we come up with the most interesting inventions. So Issa gets a call from Lawrence, aka Rice-A-Roni, because he's her San Francisco treat. He's like, yeah, no, that's not gonna fly because we were a Hamburger Helper family. Well, it's Roni gang all day over here, cuz. But Lawrence is basically calling to let her know that the interview went really well. Issa tells him about the brunch with Molly and that she feels like on her end of things that it went really well. She's gonna give her some time and, they'll be back in the swing of things soon enough. I'm like, y'all are looking at this brunch through completely different lenses. It's like Issa is very hopeful, kind of like, oh, we're going to get back. And Molly's just over here like, yeah, nah, I'm good. We see some really beautiful shots of these buildings with street art and these massive murals. Really beautiful art, very vibrant, very in your face. One of them actually has Maya Angelou on it. Loved that they showed that. Then we see Issa pop up on Nathan to help him move. And on her way inside, she is practicing the best way to platonically greet him. So when she makes it to the door, she settles for, what's up, my neck? Nathan's like, tries to give her a hug. She daps him up and moves past him. The antics. I can't with the antics. She's helping unpack the boxes. He kind of comes near. She bounces into the next room. He lets her know that he and his friends are actually going to be purchasing the barbershop they all work in because the owner of the building is retiring. She congratulates him. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to need a shout out or something because we're going to have a whole lot of bills to pay. And Issa's like, well, my rates aren't set yet, so we'll see. And then Nathan starts to walk over. Well, can we cut a deal? Got space in the back if you need it. I'll earn it. Giving her all this flirtatious energy. And so finally, Issa's just like, okay, we can't keep delaying the inevitable. So she finally goes ahead and tells him that she and Lawrence are back together. And he's like, oh. The one you cheated on? I was like, oh, wait. Like another shot to the chest. What is going on? And so Issa's like, ugh. Issa kind of shakes that off. She's like, yeah, it's new, but we're working on things. Nathan's like, well, he seemed kind of sometimey, but I hope he keep his ish together this time. And Issa's like, whoa. Well, at least he uses his words instead of disappearing on people. I was like, uh-oh, we about to get into a blowout. But no, Nathan has to be real transparent and lets her know that I didn't just disappear. I found out that I'm bipolar. It really wasn't something he knew how to deal with, so he just stayed away. And they kind of hinted that something might be wrong last season, but they didn't, of course, we didn't go in depth. And there are people who were really thinking like, this man got another family. He got a whole wife and kids in Texas. I was like, a little less melodramatic, please. So no, he had actually gone to Texas to get his diagnosis, and then once he found out, it was just kind of like, oh, well, now what? Issa is obviously surprised, but she tells him sorry he had to go through that. And she feels a little bit bad because she feels like she should have known, but there's no way she could have known. And even Nathan says that he didn't know how to communicate with people and discuss that with people at all. Naturally, because he assumed people would think he was crazy and that they wouldn't understand. And I think that although we have made strides with how we approach mental health, there still are a lot of stigmas, and there still is just this perception of people just being crazy and that they can't navigate life. And it's just like there's such a complexity to mental health, and a lot of these stereotypes about it, we got to let those things go, because people can have functioning lives. It's just that there's just a process that goes along with that, and there are things they have to be mindful of and check in on, medication, or there's a process that they really have to go through. But it's not impossible. He basically says that he had to sort through a whole lot of things, but he's gotten into a space where he's comfortable with it, and he's just trying to recognize the good people in his life, and Issa is definitely one of those people. And she thanks him for that, and she really appreciates him being so open with her. And he's like, all right, we ain't got all deep, but we got work to do, so let's go. I also wanted to say that the actor who plays Nathan, Kendrick Sampson, also has bipolar disorder in real life, and it's something that he's very outspoken about, something he is really trying to bring awareness to. And I'm so glad that he and the writers were able to collaborate and make that a part of Nathan's character and allowing that to basically be depicted on this platform. I think that's something that's really important, so I'm glad they pushed for that. Next, we have Molly strolling in with some Chinese food. Andrew's confused because they had ordered Indian. Well, Molly was like, well, the naan was a na last time, so I got this. Listen, as someone who absolutely loves Indian food, I can understand 9 not being on point because that kind of messes up everything. But the way my appetite is set up and the way my cravings are set up, when I want something specific, I want something specific. So you can't just go and get something completely different, no call, no text. We gonna have a problem. Andrew kind of takes it on the chin, and I'm kind of thinking, how many times are we going to do that? And then Andrew brings up the basketball game and how awkward it was because Molly wasn't there. And he's also wondering, are you just not going to be around my brother anymore? And Molly's like, well, why would you ask me to do something that makes me uncomfortable? And he's like, well, why can't you just try? Because if it requires her to step outside of her comfort zone, it's a problem. And if she can't control the variables in the situation somehow, then it's also a problem. And listen, that's going to get very tiring very quickly. And even with the Victor situation, I get that it wasn't ideal, it wasn't cool, but by just icing this man out, you are preventing the possibility of reconciliation. It could be that you guys go forward and have a great relationship because you've had an understanding now, but you don't know that because you just want to just block this man out. And I'm like, that is that man's brother. If you're going to really be in this relationship, you can't just block out relatives like that. I mean, you can, but it's usually not a good situation when you do that. And I really feel like she's making it difficult for Andrew to navigate this relationship because he is the only one making sacrifices. He's always being considerate of her feelings and her perspective and being on her side. I'm just like, are you ever going to do the same thing for him? Probably not. Just as they're about to get a little deeper into that conversation, Issa and Nathan show up and they're just kind of standing around awkwardly. They were trying to finish Nathan's move, but they're not really sure what to do now. So they're about to leave, and Andrew kind of looks at Molly, and Molly's like, okay, well, why don't you just, come and have dinner with us? And Issa tries to play it off like, oh, no, we're fine, and, we're full. And Nathan's like, excuse me. Yeah, no, we're going to go eat. So then we see the four of them just hanging out, maxing, relaxing, all cool, but not shooting some b-ball outside of school. Yeah, they're just hanging out and having a good old time. They're reminiscing on different things like Issa's old apartment and the games they used to play, like Mafia. I was like, oh, Mafia. Mafia has been such a big part of my college experience, especially because I was a part of a ministry. And every game night we would play Mafia. Mafia is a fun game, but those games would take so long and they would play it so often. I was just like, okay. I need a break from Mafia. But it definitely is a fun game. There's also another game they came up with called Celebrity Heights, where they guess the heights of all these different celebrities, and if you're wrong, you have to drink. So they want to play, but then Molly is kind of looking like, because clearly Molly is kind of over the facade. She's over trying to put on a good face because this is not something she really wanted to do. Andrew kind of persuaded her to do it. Molly once again just goes with the flow because Andrew's like, look, he's trying to really put the hammer on. So they decide to start playing the game. So she goes along with it. They start playing the game. Bernie Sanders is first up. They're like, oh, he's, 5'6", 5'7". Bernie Sanders is 6 feet. And I feel like I should have known that, but I think, like Andrew said, the way he carries himself makes you think of someone much shorter. And I just would have guessed that. The fact that he and I are the same height, like, crazy. So Andrew heads to the kitchen to get some more wine, and Molly makes the tragic mistake of sending a message without checking who she's sending it to. And the message does not go to Andrew, it goes to Issa. The message says, see, I'm trying with her. Issa looks at that and she's like, I never want to be in a situation where I feel like I'm there to be tolerated. I'm there because you just kind of have to put up with me or because you're being forced into something. I'm like, look, you don't do me any favors. I can be off doing anything else. We don't have to do this. So I understood when Issa was just like, huh. And then she sends the text back like, yeah, I don't think this was meant for me. And then Molly's face when she got the message, I was like, well, ain't nothing you could say now. So Issa's just like, yeah, I gotta go. It's time to go. So Issa just rushes out. Molly rushes out after her. And Molly's just trying to explain it. And she also was just like, this all feels so forced. And for Issa, it was just a matter of us getting back into a good place. No, it's not 100% right now, but I was trying. And for Molly, it's just like, well, we didn't even discuss the block party. And Issa's like, well, I didn't know you wanted to discuss it, but let's discuss it. And then Molly's like, well, we've been off for months now. And for Issa, it's like, okay, fine, but it feels like I'm the only person fighting for this relationship. And I can't be the only person, Molly. I can't be the only person trying. And Molly just says, well, maybe the person that you are now and the person I am now don't really fit anymore. And that does happen. It's happened to me in a couple of friendships. It felt like the friendship became more about their success and them kind of flaunting their successes in my face rather than us just enjoying that success, or just enjoying hanging and being friends in spite of the success. You know what I'm saying? So as soon as she says that, Issa, you can see the heartbreak on her face. She's just like, okay. And Molly's like, okay. Oh, Molly, baby, what is going on? Like, I don't understand. Like, what is it you want her to do? Is she supposed to get down and beg and plead for this relationship to continue, for this friendship to continue, even though you won't do anything? I was just like, whoa. Like, she's the one initiating everything. She's the one doing everything. She's the one, like, I'm like, what? At what point do you give some ground? Like none? And now that she finally is over it, you still feel like it's okay. Let me bring it back down. But let me just say that if you are in a friendship and you are never in a position to see yourself as wrong, if it's always about you, if you're always the victim, if we're in a friendship and you cannot extend yourself just once, admit you're wrong just once, see it from my side just once, then why are we friends? That's not how friendship works at all. It takes two to tango. And if I'm tangoing by myself, then why are you here? So Issa just kind of says, well, it's nothing else to say. She gets in her Uber and she drives off, leaving Molly on the curb where she should be. Like, listen, I really have tried to see things from Molly's point of view, but there comes a point where you have to realize that it's not just about you. It's not just from your point of view, and you cannot be right all the time. And you have to be able to concede some ground somewhere. And the fact that she cannot do that is a massive problem. And if you continue to go through life that way in relationships or friendships, you're going to be right where Molly is, standing on the curb with nobody around. I'm just saying. And maybe that's a little foreshadowing for the finale because Molly, this ain't it. This ain't it at all. So yeah, unlike the last episode, this one definitely wasn't happy. It was more so frustrating and sad, and the episode was definitely low-key trying my patience. So I guess they did a good job with it. Yeah, it was tough to watch, but it also is real, and I know because I've experienced it. So the finale is next week. We are bringing everything to a close, and I can only imagine what happens. Can't wait. So, once again, this is D, Movieman, signing off, and I'll see you at the movies.